No, it's all good.
I forgot.
It's all good.
Getting over
We
that
are
yet.
doing appraisal review. Now, I think the name online was a lot more glamorous than appraisal review. I think it was like knowing what to look for on appraisals or whatever have you. But I landed on appraisal review. And the reason why I landed on appraisal review is because the truth of the matter is most originators don't really look at appraisals, but that does not mean that they don't need to know what to look for, when that appraisal does come in and they need to review it. And so we're going to go over the following subjects and maybe like one more. We're going to talk about the property address, the owner of record, parcel numbers, occupancy and housing expenses, the property being for sale and stuff like that. Um, and just things that you just want to look out for and things that you could teach your processors to look
Yeah.
out for. I totally encourage you to tell your processors to come back and look at the what do you call it, and look at this video. So this is the funniest thing about appraisals is that unlike tax returns, and you're going to know what I'm talking about when I say this, unlike tax returns, every line on the appraisal is important. So when I teach about tax returns, I always say, listen, you've got all of these pages of tax returns, but the good part is you only need to look at a few things. The appraisal is completely opposite. We actually do, as underwriters, have to read this entire appraisal. Now, it seems like a lot of information, but most
Hey,
of it
sorry,
is
I'm on
just
a Zoom call.
categories.
What's going on?
So most of that information is just categories, and it's set off into a few categories: your subject, your contract section, improvements, and we're going to go over some of the important sections today. Crystal, you're in my line of vision, so I'm going to be calling your name out to tell me if you can see certain things. Can you see my red dot moving, Crystal?
I can.
All right, cool. Believe it or not, believe it or not, the most important thing that you want to make sure of when you review that appraisal is that it's actually for the property that you need. I wish I could tell you that underwriters have never made this mistake, but it's just not true. When you're in a hurry, when you're rushing, what are you doing? Look at all these lines. What are you doing? You're skimming, right? And so you can actually skim your way past the address and not realize that your application or your system doesn't say Elktown, Maryland. It might say Elf Town. Now you've got an appraisal that has the wrong address, and you've got documents that have the wrong address because we didn't verify that address. Maybe it says 1112 Courtney Drive. So something as simple as looking at that address. The next one is the owner of record. This is huge during refinance season. I don't know if you guys are starting to see refinances, but um, when we are refinancing, sometimes we need to make sure that the borrower has owned the property for a certain amount of time or does own the property. When we are doing purchases, we want to make sure that that the seller actually owns the property. Now, what happens when it's kind of like one of those wholesale deals? Then that means that we'll probably have some type of assignment that's in the file from whose ever name is written up here. Now, most assessments are listed inside of the title commitment. But if by some freak of a chance, and we're still in this subject section right here, guys, but if by some freak of a chance we happen to miss that subject, that special assessment inside of the title commitment, it's going to be here. And it's going to be over here next to occupancy and HOA. Now, I am huge about HOA fees. I'm huge about special assessments. And the reason why is because those are things that move that DTI. You know what I mean? So you've gotten If you've gotten the appraisal, then you're probably almost at the finish line. Now, what don't you want to see at the finish line of a mortgage transaction? An additional $236 special assessment fee that no one knew about, but the appraiser somehow found and they got and put on appraisal. And it could be either per month or per year. This one right here is per month. If you kind of go over to the left of that, can you guys see where it says occupancy? And like I said, this is a lot for your processor, but when we're in that refinance season, this is so important because I cannot begin to tell you how many times I have underwritten a loan and tenant was marked on a primary residence refinance. Appraiser went to the house, talked to the person that let them in. That person let him know, oh yeah, I rent this. I've been renting this for like a year. But we're doing a refinance for primary residence. So super important to look at that and absolutely make sure. I'm a little bit out of order here. This would have came first, but the parcel numbers. Now, why would the parcel numbers be important? Have you ever had a property that had two parcels? So if the property had two parcels, we definitely want both of those parcels up here. Do I trust the taxes that are on an appraisal report? He's going to public records, but if it's a purchase, then that means that those public records are not really right anyway, right? Because what happens when someone buys a house, that purchase, excuse me, those taxes are not the same as the person who owned them. But if you're refinancing, it's a safe bet that the taxes are around that much. Oh, that's the same one. Sorry about that. Now, do I believe in using HOA fees from your Zillows and your stuff like that? I am going to say that this is a good practice for originators to use. So you've got your borrower and you've got your purchase agreement. There's nothing really inside of the contract that says anything about HOA fees, or maybe it does. I would definitely just do a search. You always want to do a search anyway on your property address and just check and see what's going on, because the last thing you want is for something to come back and bite you in the Yahoo. But what if your amount was more or less, whatever have you? This is going to tell you, your Zillows. I think UWM has like the HBE that you can kind of search and everything. But always search when you get those. And like I said, it's right here, all inside the subject property. I'm going ahead of myself. I've already gone through occupancy, guys. All right. Here's another goodie, but very, very irritating one. So this one says, is the subject property currently offered for sale? So this will, of course, be a purchase, right? If it is, of course, we will mark yes. And then the other question says, or has it been offered for sale in the 12 months prior to the date of the appraisal? Why is that important? One of the main reasons why that's important is because if it is a refinance or if it's a cash out refinance, you're going to have to take it off the market. No lender, and definitely not Fannie or Freddie, are going to purchase or finance a house that is currently listed for sale. Now, I don't know, do any of us live in rural areas? Raise your hand if you do, put your thumbs down if you don't. So for USDA loans, and this is usually when you see this, you will see private road marked right here, right where my little thing is. And when that is marked off, we do need a private road maintenance agreement. And what that private road maintenance agreement does is it lets the investor, it lets whomever know, hey, listen, this road is not maintained by the city, the state, the county, whomever. The owners of all of this land maintain it, and we make sure that it has all weather surface. This right here says concrete. And so either it'll say concrete or it'll say asphalt. And that agreement will be signed by all parties. Now, I've seen as many as 4 or 5 people. I've seen as many as, excuse me, as less as 2 people that have to sign that agreement. And why they're doing that is because you need to be able to get in and out of the property. And so the way that they do that is that they make sure that they are maintaining that property. Now, another one that you'll see that's popular, especially when it comes to FHA and VA, is the utilities. Are they public or not? Is that water public? Is it sanitary public? Why? Because that triggers different things. Do we need an inspection? Is it a certain distance away or whatever have you? But this is that trigger. Now, inside of the purchase contract, there usually is language that tells you if there is something going on like that, but it depends on what state it is. It depends on that purchase contract. Now, how many of you guys have heard of the accessory dwelling units? This is a very, very popular topic, and it is also a point of frustration. And one of the main reasons why is because we're talking about a completely separate living area on a property that is basically zoned as a single family residence. And when that appraiser sees it, if they are not seasoned, if they are not informed, then they might say something like remove kitchen from basement. um, or, is this authorized or whatever have you. And based on Fannie and Freddie, we've got some really clear guidelines on what would be a accessory dwelling unit. Ooh, excuse me, it is too early for that. Here's the first clue that we have an accessory dwelling unit. The appraiser is going to mark one unit with accessory unit. Now, if that's not marked, we definitely want to go back and ask the appraiser to mark it. The underwriter is more than likely going to catch that to figure out why is it not. Now, what goes into an accessory dwelling unit? It has to have a sleeping area. Does that mean you cannot have a studio? That's not what that means. It just means that that room needs to be big enough for the person to sleep in there and live in there. Is there a bathroom in there? Is there a kitchen or a kitchenette? And we know that kitchenette is just a smaller version of a kitchen. It just might have a small stove, a sink, a small refrigerator, not like an island and all that stuff. I do believe they need at least one cabinet to store a dish or two in. There needs to be a separate entrance, meaning they can go into their accessory dwelling unit through its own entrance. So they cannot come through the actual house and go into the accessory dwelling unit. It has to have its own entrance. It can be attached or detached. And what do I mean by that? That means that it can be inside of a detached garage. It could be in an attached garage. It could be above a detached garage. It could be above an attached garage. Maybe that was just kind of like attic area or something. And now they've just completely made it into like a little small, tiny apartment. I would probably say one of the second most important things about the accessory dwelling unit would be that it has to be smaller than the main dwelling. So they cannot have an accessory dwelling unit that is tricked out, huge, and better than the actual unit that they are living in. Now, this was a fairly short one because, like I said, most originators are not digging that deep into appraisals. So before I go over to my review, I do want to talk a little bit about comparables because my comparable comp is not on here.
Dionne,
Yes.
I just had a question about the ADUs because I have heard about there being multiple ADUs attached to one residential. Yeah, and I've heard that's not technically supposed to be possible because it's supposed to be what's it, accessory to. But in Oregon and Washington, they're trying to say that you can have up to three accessories to one single dwelling. So it's kind of confusing.
So what they're talking about is their county, their kind of like city, their state rules. But Fannie, Freddie, FHA, USDA, VA, they're more than likely are kind of like right now staying at just one.
Perfect. Thank you. And then one other thing that my sister-in-law was kind of confused about that I had to let her know on her appraisal is that she had a kind of a daylight basement. And so her square footage was about half of what she was expecting on her uh, on her home. So I just wanted to touch base on that.
Look, I was pulling up an appraisal because that is an extremely, extremely good point. Because my slide somehow didn't make it. Can you see this appraisal that I just pulled up, this PDF?
Yep.
Excellent. 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 All right. Cool. So I am going to take a snippet of it so that I can highlight it. All right, here we go. I love the snippet tool. It's like one of my favorite things.
I do too.
So this is the first thing. Appraisers have to tell you how many comparables there are in a neighborhood. So the green one says that 6 comparable properties are currently for sale between the price range of 195 and 235. And then that there are 38 of them within the past 12 months from 166 to 247. Okay.
Oh, I don't think we
So,
can see what you're
oh no. Okay.
into.
I'm so glad that you said that because I was just going with it, wasn't I? All right. There's Zoom. There we are. Can you see it now?
Yes.
All right. Great. So at the very top of the appraisal, 6 comparables are currently offered in the subject neighborhood for 195 to 235. And then 38 of them were 166 to 247 in the last 12 months. So I do want to tell you that the appraised value for this particular property is 206,000. Okay. And I'm saying that just so that I can explain a little bit to you guys about comparables. First and foremost, it is not the underwriter's job unless they are a VA underwriter that has their SAR. Okay. Your FHA underwriter, your conventional underwriter, the appraiser are our eyes and our ears. We're not ever challenging an appraiser. We are asking them questions. And I want to make that distinction because I don't want to touch VA because VA is a little bit different, okay? But conventional, FHA, USDA, jumbo, all that other good stuff, the appraiser, those are our eyes and those are our ears, okay? We're always looking for proximity. Why are we looking for proximity? If you go too far out, are we still in the same neighborhood? Are we still in the same school district? When you look for a house, when you move into a neighborhood, whether you're renting, whether you own, you are looking at certain things that are in your neighborhood. your school, your grocery store, your library. Do you see where I'm going with this? It's in your neighborhood. And so when we look at the mileage or whatever have you, we're making sure that that's inside of our neighborhood. Now, remember, suburbs, rural areas, all of that is taken into consideration. That's why they put it at 1 mile for your regular, like, urban, suburban areas. And then we kind of go out into the wild, wild west when rural. I've seen them as far as 35 miles. Was I happy about it? What can I do? There's no other properties, and not that there's no other properties around, but none of them are sold. It's a rural area. So don't get hung up on these numbers. There's a reason why the appraiser did it. We want the appraiser to compare it to a like property. Is it a residential area? Are they all fee simple? So if you were in the Northeast, would we really want to compare a leasehold to a fee simple property? No. We will want them all to be compared to the same. I'm going to go down a little bit more. The square footage. Are they around the same size? This one's 10,000. This one's 13. This one right here, I'll use a red marker for that. This is 10,000. That's 13. That's 8,000. That's 7,000. We want them to bracket. We want something that's a little bit higher. We want something that's lower, and we want something that's supposed to be comparable. Okay, I think that this one is the one that's supposed to be comparable to that. Let's look at the bedroom count. I'm not going to go into quality and stuff like that, or age, because we can't go through the whole entire appraisal, but I do want to look at the bedroom count. This is huge because Crystal just asked a really good question. And one of the questions that Crystal asked was, why her sister wanted to know, why did they not include that basement in that square footage count? And the main reason is because it's not living space. It's divided on the appraisal. So look at this one right here. Sorry about that. One room, zero bathrooms, one bedroom, one rec room. This one has one rec room. This one has one bathroom. Do you see where we're going here? It's telling you that there's a room down here, but it's not giving you credit. Now I can tell you that that's where real estate agents, and that's where that's where underwriters and appraisers click, because real estate agents sell bedrooms no matter where the bedrooms are at. We look at what is actually above ground, what is a bedroom. And they don't like that. The appraiser compared it to, this is the subject, to a 3-bedroom, a 4-bedroom, and another 4-bedroom. Now, without going all the way through it, can I tell you if he made a great decision or not? I don't really see a lot of adjustments except on that really small one. So I would say that he did pretty good. Do I think that the 3-bedroom should have not been used? I don't think it should have been used. And I'm gonna tell you why. If I'm looking for a 3-bedroom apartment, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom. Maybe in his mind, he was saying that that basement had a rec room and a bathroom, so it could be used as a 4th room. I don't see it, but look at the price. It's sold for $224. It's sold for more than the subject. So there's obviously a market. There is a market for 3 bedrooms and a basement. They don't have to actually have that bathroom. So it does fly. But here's the most important thing. They need to be comparable. They need to be in the same neighborhood. I lost my mouse. And the condition, they're all C4. They're all in the same condition. If you're too far out, if you're in like a city or urban area, you can't really count on design. I'm from Chicago. It's a hodgepodge. There's not a lot of subdivisions in Chicago. Do you know what I mean when I say that? There's no little boxes and they're all made the same way. So, there's going to be some different design elements in Chicago. So that might work in, the suburbs, but it might not work in a major city. But bottom line, all right, let me get back to my slideshow. The bottom line is that the appraiser are the eyes and the ears of the underwriter. The appraiser goes out and tells the underwriter how much the property is worth. It shows the underwriter that these properties, this property value is supported because 3 other properties or 4 other properties that are similar to that property sold for a certain amount of money. If this was an accessory dwelling unit, then that means that the comparables that are used, at least 1 or 2 of them need to be an accessory dwelling unit. The market has to support that accessory dwelling unit. What else? I lost my slideshow. So confirmed occupancy, very, very important when we're dealing with this refinance season. Updated HOA and special assessments. This is more common than you think. You've got upgraded roofs in these subdivisions. You got roads that were redone. You've got common areas that were redone. This is very common, so don't sleep on that. Confirm that the property hasn't been listed. Make sure all your addresses match. If you are dealing with an accessory dwelling unit, make sure that make sure that it's addressed on the appraisal. And that's all I've got for you. Does anybody have any questions? I've actually got no minutes, but I'll take a question if you guys have a question. It's exactly 1:30.
Very helpful. Thank you, Dionne.
All right. You guys are a quiet bunch, so I am going to go ahead and disconnect. We've got a new schedule. No problem, Chris. No problem at all. You guys take care, okay?
Thanks so much. See you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.